We live in a society that glorifies motivation, constantly urging us to stay inspired and driven. However, motivation is fleeting, like a flame that burns brightly and then dims. What we truly need is something more dependable: self-discipline. Yet, many misunderstand it, viewing it as punishment, limitation, or a dull substitute for freedom. In reality, self-discipline is the most liberating power we possess, a passport to choices, control, and direction in life. Without it, we are captives of impulse and temporary emotion. With it, we become the creators of our own destinies. Every great accomplishment in human history wasn't born from a burst of motivation, but from people who showed up when it wasn't easy, who stayed when it got tough, and who chose the long journey over shortcuts. Self-discipline allows us to trade comfort for meaning. To grasp its value, we must ask not, how do I become more disciplined, but why do I want to be disciplined at all? If the reason is merely to impress others or keep up appearances, it will crumble. Real discipline, the kind that shapes a life, starts from within, with clarity and purpose. When you know why you want to build something, delaying gratification becomes easier. When deeply connected to your vision, you can say no to immediate temptations to say yes to something greater later. This is where self-discipline begins. In identity, not just action. The most disciplined people aren't those with rigid schedules, but those who have found something they deeply believe in and are willing to sacrifice for. They are committed to a process, aligning their actions with their beliefs. From that alignment comes consistency, progress, and ultimately, growth. Many try to force discipline from the outside using systems, routines, and apps. These can help, but none will stick without a compelling why. When you understand why something matters, you pull yourself forward, just as a parent wakes at 3 a.m. for their child. Not because they're motivated, but because they love. That love becomes the why, making action almost automatic. When actions are connected to purpose, discipline becomes less about willpower and more about identity. You do it because it's who you are. Imagine waking up with a quiet resolve, a sense of responsibility not to the world but to your own future. You train, study, and work because it matters to you. This isn't discipline as force, but as alignment, a powerful state. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's often invisible. It's not about being seen, but becoming someone. It's quiet, patient, and personal, building your future in unseen moments. One of the most dangerous lies is that I'll feel like it later. You don't rise to the level of your goals, but fall to the level of your standards, shaped by self-discipline. To change your life, raise your standards, connecting them to your heart and understanding why they matter. Discipline without meaning becomes punishment, but with meaning it becomes purpose, a fuel that never runs dry. Those we admire aren't superhuman, they're just clear. They know what they stand for and what they're building. Because they know why, they can handle the how, withstanding discomfort and setbacks. To master self-discipline, start with a story. The story you tell yourself about who you are and why you're here. Define the mission, clarify the reason, make it real, and the actions will follow consistently. Self-discipline isn't about perfection, but direction. It's about being honest with yourself, asking if each choice moves you toward the person you want to become. If yes, keep going. If no, pause, reflect, and realign. When you know why something matters, discipline becomes a privilege, a chance to prove that your future is worth it, that you are worth it. We often hear that some people are naturally disciplined, but this is a myth. Discipline isn't innate, it's built. Like a muscle, it strengthens with training and weakens with neglect. Building this muscle takes effort and resistance, the very things most people avoid. Discipline is forged in choosing the hard thing over the easy thing, in doing what you said you would long after the mood has faded. Think of the gym. You don't become fit after one visit. You build strength by showing up regularly, putting your muscles under tension, and gradually increasing what you can handle. The first time you lift, you struggle, but that's not failure, it's the process. The body adapts to stress, and so does your character. Similarly, the first time you wake up early or say no to distraction, it feels unnatural, but that friction signals growth, stepping into a new identity. Each decision to follow through adds a rep to the muscle, shaping who you are. We've been trained to avoid discomfort, labeling it as suffering. When discipline feels hard, we assume we're not wired for it, comparing ourselves to others who seem to do it effortlessly. The truth is, they've just been training longer, making more decisions that support who they want to become. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Not because the path gets easier, but because you get stronger. Instead of asking, why is this so hard for me? Ask, what am I strengthening right now? This flips discomfort from something to avoid into something to embrace. Every time you resist temptation, you're training your future. Like any training program, start small with what you can manage right now. One decision, one action, one promise kept to yourself. The point isn't to overhaul your life in a day, but to build credibility with yourself over time. When you keep a promise, no matter how small, you reinforce the idea that you can be trusted, that your words matter, that your standards mean something. This shifts your identity from someone trying to be disciplined to someone who is disciplined. It's not performance anymore, it's personality. Building that identity isn't about grand gestures, but about showing up, especially when it's inconvenient. It's easy to be disciplined when things are exciting, but the real test comes in the mundane, when no one is applauding and you're left alone with your excuses. Those are the reps that matter most, shaping everything others will see. Consistency beats intensity. Anyone can do something hard once, but few can do something simple every day. Greatness comes from consistency, from the quiet, repeated choice to honor your standards even when no one's keeping score. You'll miss reps and slip, but discipline isn't about perfection. It's about resilience. When you fall off, get back on. When you break the chain, start a new link. A strong muscle isn't one that never gets injured, but one that recovers quickly and grows stronger from the strain. Similarly, the obstacles you face tired mornings, distractions, doubts are your training partners, the resistance you need to get stronger. Stop waiting for the path to be clear. The struggle is the work, and the challenge is the teacher. Discipline isn't about waiting for ideal conditions, but about choosing your response when conditions aren't ideal. You don't need a perfect plan to begin. You just need to decide who you want to become and then act in alignment with that identity over and over until it's no longer just a decision, it's who you are. The next time you see someone who seems deeply disciplined, ask not what tools they use, but what reps they've done, how many times they've chosen commitment over comfort. It comes not from being special, but from choosing to show up when it would have been easier to give in. If you're willing to show up even when it's hard, you'll find that the muscle you thought you lacked is already in you. You just have to train it. We've been taught to chase motivation, but it's emotional, reactive, and comes and goes like the weather. If motivation is your fuel, your engine will stall when conditions change. Vision, however, is constant and fixed. It's the reason behind the reason, pulling you forward when motivation runs out, when you're tired, when no one's watching, and especially when it would be easier to quit. Motivation is a push, but vision is a pull. When your vision is clear, it becomes the anchor that holds you steady in the storm. Most people struggle with consistency not because they're lazy, but because they're unclear. They try to build discipline on hype, which fades. Without vision, the process becomes mechanical, and they stop the minute it gets uncomfortable. But when you have a clear and compelling vision, when you know exactly what you're working toward and why it matters, discipline becomes meaningful and personal. The strongest people aren't those who are constantly motivated, but those who are deeply connected to their purpose, replacing the need to feel good with the responsibility to do good. Your vision doesn't have to be massive, it just has to be real, speaking to something inside you. Maybe it's to build a better life for your family, to prove to yourself that you can follow through, or to lead by example. Whatever it is, your vision needs to be specific, emotional, and honest. When rooted in truth, it gives meaning to every step, even the hard ones. The world will offer you short-term motivation every day, but it's all noise if it's not attached to a deeper why. It's like putting a turbo boost on a car with no destination. Vision gives you direction and context. This is where I'm going, and here's why it matters. With that clear, the daily effort starts to take shape. You no longer ask, do I feel like it today, but does this move me toward the vision? Feelings fluctuate, but vision doesn't. The most disciplined people don't rely on motivation, they rely on alignment, making their daily actions match their long-term vision. The path to anything worthwhile is filled with resistance. If you rely on motivation, you'll falter. But if you're driven by vision, you keep going, seeing beyond the discomfort to where it leads. Vision creates resilience, giving pain a purpose and turning struggle into significance. You stop seeing obstacles as reasons to quit and start seeing them as the work required to earn the outcome. Vision is not just a mental picture, but an emotional connection. It's not just about what you want, but about why it matters. The more clearly you can feel it, the more likely you are to fight for it. Motivation speaks to your present feelings, but vision speaks to your future identity. Ask yourself, who am I becoming through this process? What kind of person follows through? What kind of person chooses purpose over comfort? When you see yourself as someone who lives out your vision day by day, your identity shifts and your behavior follows. Vision doesn't just change your goals, it changes your self-perception, giving you something to live for, not just something to do. Discipline becomes less about forcing action and more about expressing who you've already decided to be. This doesn't mean you'll never doubt or that every day will feel good, but when you replace motivation with vision, you don't need every day to feel good, you just need it to be aligned. You're not acting for the sake of the task, but for the sake of the mission. Don't wait to feel ready. Light the fire yourself. Write down your vision, name it, own it, and let it be the standard by which you measure your choices. Keep your eyes on the vision, letting it guide, ground, and grow you. When motivation fades, your vision will still be there, waiting to pull you forward. We grow up thinking that saying yes is the right thing to do, equating our value with our availability. We say yes to more than we can handle, to things we don't believe in, until our own needs and goals are buried. But every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with who you are or where you're going, you're silently saying no to yourself, to your boundaries, growth, and the discipline it takes to protect what matters most. Discipline isn't just about what you do, it's about what you don't do, guarding your time, energy, and attention. It's about being brutally honest about what matters and courageous enough to act accordingly. Saying no is hard. It makes us feel guilty or selfish. But it's not selfish to protect your purpose or preserve your energy for what truly matters. It's the most responsible thing you can do. Those who have mastered self-discipline know how to say no. Not out of arrogance, but because they understand that their time and energy are finite. Saying no is an act of clarity, defining your mission, values, and goals, and protecting them. It's a way of making space for the work that actually matters. Most of us overcommit out of fear of missing out, judgment, or letting someone down. We operate out of obligation, not intention, eroding our capacity to show up for the things that truly need us. Discipline means stepping back and asking, what am I actually here to do? What is my real mission? What's getting in the way of that? Often, the biggest threat to our goals isn't failure, but distraction, disguised as opportunity, the dozens of good things that pull us away from the few great things. We don't drift toward greatness. We drift toward mediocrity, overcommitment, and burnout. Greatness requires intention, guarding your priorities like they matter because they do. Sometimes you'll have to say no to people you care about, turning down good things for the sake of great things, or disappointing others to stay true to yourself. The question isn't, will this make someone else happy? But, will this move me closer to who I want to become? If the answer is no, you owe it to yourself to turn it down. This doesn't mean you never help others, but that you lead your life from purpose, not pressure, from conviction, not convenience. You make decisions with a long-term lens, not a short-term emotional reaction. When you start saying no more often, you actually become more useful, grounded, focused, and present. When you do say yes, it's a full yes, backed by energy and clarity. That's how you bring real value to your work and relationships. It starts with giving yourself permission to disappoint someone else so you don't keep disappointing yourself, to let go of the illusion that more is better, and to choose quality over quantity. Every yes costs something, time, energy, and presence. If you don't know what your priorities are, you'll spend those resources recklessly, waking up one day and wondering where you went. Discipline says, I know what I want, and I'm willing to protect it, even if it's uncomfortable or unpopular. The price of peace, purpose, and progress is often paid in advance through boundaries, preserving your strength for what truly matters. Practice the pause before you say yes, asking if it's aligned, necessary, and part of the mission. If it's not, give yourself the space to say no with grace and finality. Your future self, vision, and energy will thank you. In the end, discipline isn't just about pushing harder. It's about choosing wiser, having the courage to say no to the noise, so you can say yes to the signalese, to the life you're building and the self you're becoming. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes, feeling it not as rejection, but as alignment, not as loss, but as gain. When you say no with intention, you're not closing doors. You're opening the right one. One of the most powerful things you can do for your future is also one of the simplest. Make a promise and keep it. Not to others, but to yourself. Self-discipline isn't just about habits or willpower. It's about trust. And the person you need to trust the most is the one you face in the mirror every morning. We usually follow through on promises to others to avoid letting them down, but we're often more lenient with ourselves, breaking our own word quietly. We justify it, but every time you break your word to yourself, you weaken the most important relationship you have. If you can't count on yourself, everything else becomes unstable. Your confidence erodes, your momentum fades, and your belief in your ability to grow cracks. You've stopped seeing yourself as someone who follows through, and you start hesitating, negotiating, and needing motivation just to do what you once promised. But when you keep your promises, no matter how small, you build credibility and identity, becoming the kind of person who finishes what they start, who shows up even when no one's watching. Discipline isn't built on inspiration, but on identity. When you make and keep a promise, you start to see yourself differently, acting as someone who is disciplined. You don't need to talk yourself into doing the right thing, you just do it because that's who you are. This isn't about being perfect, but about being committed. There will be days you fall short, but discipline isn't about avoiding failure, it's about returning to your promise, getting back up, realigning, and recommitting. Build that strength one promise at a time. Simple. Quiet, personal commitments that no one else sees, but you feel deeply. Like getting up when your alarm goes off, or finishing the task you said you'd complete. These moments are defining each one a vote for the kind of person you want to be. The more votes you cast, the stronger that identity becomes. You stop needing to try to be disciplined. You are disciplined because you've proven it to yourself again and again. Choose your promises carefully, starting small and specific. Choose one promise that matters, something meaningful but manageable, something that stretches you but doesn't snap you. Then commit to it, tracking it not for performance but for reflection. Every day you keep your promise. Mark it and recognize it, reinforcing the identity. This is who I am now. But what happens when you break a promise? It will happen. The temptation is to throw it all away, but that's shame talking. Breaking a promise doesn't erase the progress. What matters is what you do next. Do you spiral, or do you reset? Do you let one missed day become a missed week? Or do you start fresh tomorrow? The promise was never about being flawless. It was about building integrity, which isn't destroyed by a single setback, but built by the decision to come back after one. Come back. Always come back. That's how you win the long game, building something unshakable, not through intensity, but through consistency. Discipline is a long-term relationship with your future. Every promise you keep is a deposit into that future, strengthening the foundation. You start seeing hard things not as burdens, but as opportunities to prove something to yourself, to say, I'm still here. I still believe. I still trust the process. Make a promise, just one, and keep it. Then make another and another, stacking them and honoring them. Let them build into something solid, shaping how you see yourself and how the world sees you, not as someone who talks about discipline, but as someone who lives it. That's how transformation happens, not in one moment, but in thousands of small ones, quiet, unseen, often inconvenient, but powerful. In those moments, you're not just building habits, you're building a life.